Ladies and gentlemen, I want to speak to you today about something that looks attractive, sounds powerful, and even feels essential. But possessing it can be one of the most dangerous things in your life. Having this is very dangerous. You see, the most dangerous thing a person can have is power without purpose. The most dangerous thing a society can develop is wealth without wisdom. And the most dangerous thing a leader can wield is authority without accountability. We live in a time where many chase position, fame, influence, and control. But let me caution you, what you have means nothing if you don't know why you have it. It is not what you possess that destroys you. It is what you misunderstand and mismanage that does. A weapon in the hands of a child is not a blessing. It is a threat, and so is vision without discipline. So is success without character. So is opportunity without preparation. What makes having this dangerous is not the thing itself, but the ignorance surrounding it. If you have something you're not ready for, what you have will eventually have you. It will control you, compromise you, and possibly consume you. So before you ask for more, check what you're doing with what you already have. Before you pursue greatness, examine your grounding, because the higher you go, the deeper your roots must be, or you will fall under the weight of your own elevation. Power without purpose is destructive. It may appear glorious on the surface, but underneath it is a ticking time bomb. Power in itself is not evil. Power is neutral. Power is influence, the ability to control, to move, to direct. But when that power is not anchored to a clear, righteous, and well-understood purpose, it becomes a weapon. Sometimes silent, sometimes loud, but always dangerous. In every generation, we have seen individuals rise to positions of power and crash with tremendous force. And people ask, what happened? But the question is not what happened. It is what was missing. What was absent in the life of that person was not power. It was purpose. When you do not know why you have something, you will inevitably abuse it. Abuse is always the result of ignorance. The word abuse in itself is a combination of two words, abnormal and use. Abnormal use is what happens when someone is given authority but doesn't know the assignment. When someone has gifts but doesn't know the goal. When someone is elevated without ever asking, why was I raised up in the first place? You can have power over people and still be lost. You can sit in a high seat and still be walking in confusion. Purpose is what gives power direction. Without purpose, power is like a river that has no banks it floods, it destroys, it drowns. Take a moment and reflect on the chaos in our world today. Look at the systems that are failing. Look at governments that oppress. Look at institutions that promise to serve but end up consuming. What is wrong is not the presence of power. It is the absence of purpose guiding that power. It is the misuse of position because the purpose was never defined, or worse, it was rejected. A man with strength but no moral compass becomes dangerous. A woman with influence but no internal grounding becomes unstable. When your outer capacity grows faster than your inner character, destruction is inevitable. That's why you cannot be impressed simply because someone has power. You must ask, what is the purpose behind it? Power is not just for status. It is not just for command. It is for service. It is to fulfill a role, a function, a calling that is bigger than the one who holds it. And when people forget that, they use power for personal gain, for control, for manipulation, and that's when damage begins, not always suddenly, sometimes slowly, quietly, but surely, even in your personal life, power without purpose is a danger. You may have the power to choose, but do you understand why you are choosing? You may have the power to lead, but where are you leading people? You may have the power to speak, but are your words building or breaking? That is why purpose must always precede power. Before you reach for more influence, you must first ask, why am I here? Before you chase position, you must ask, what am I supposed to do with it? Before you seek a platform, you must ask, what message was I born to deliver? Purpose protects you. It gives you boundaries. It gives you a reason to say yes, and a reason to say no. When you have purpose, not everything that is available to you becomes acceptable to you. When you have purpose, power becomes an instrument, not an identity, and that distinction will save your life. Many people have fallen not because they were evil, but because they were empty. They climbed without clarity. They succeeded without self-examination. They inherited or attained power before they discovered their reason for being. That is a recipe for collapse, because when you don't know what you are called to do, you will start doing what feels good instead of what is right. Purpose gives power restraint. Purpose gives power responsibility. Purpose gives power reverence. Without it, you begin to believe that power is your right rather than your responsibility. You start to think that power exists to serve you, when in truth, it is supposed to empower you to serve others. And so, the real danger is not power itself. It is when people who lack purpose are given power. That is the root of most crises. That is the seed of most scandals. That is the beginning of most falls. A person without purpose will turn anything they have, money, voice, followers, weapons, policies, or gifts, into a tool of self, service, or destruction. But a person of purpose, no matter how much power they possess, becomes a servant. They become a steward, they become a protector, a builder, a force for good, because they understand that their power was never really about them. It was entrusted to them for a mission greater than themselves. So before you pray for power, pray for purpose. Before you strive for success, seek understanding. Before you desire influence, desire clarity, because having power without knowing why you have it is not just dangerous, it is deadly. And history has proven that again and again. Knowledge without wisdom is hazardous. It is not enough to know. The true danger lies in knowing, but not understanding. We live in a world overflowing with knowledge. Information is everywhere. Click a button, search a term, watch a video, read an article. In an instant, we can access more data than entire generations before us ever dreamed of. And yet, the presence of knowledge has not erased confusion. The abundance of facts has not eliminated foolishness. In fact, it seems the more knowledge people gain, the less wisdom they demonstrate. Knowledge can be stored, wisdom must be lived, knowledge fills the mind. Wisdom shapes the life. You can graduate from the highest universities, earn degrees, recite theories, and still be unwise, because wisdom is not found in memory, it is revealed in maturity. Wisdom is not what you know, it is how you apply what you know, when to apply it, and why. Knowledge is the car, wisdom is the driver, and what good is a fast car in the hands of someone who doesn't know how to steer? This is why knowledge by itself can be dangerous, because knowledge without wisdom produces arrogance. It gives a person a false sense of competence. They think because they have access, they have authority, but knowing something does not mean you understand it. And understanding something does not mean you're prepared to handle it. That gap between knowledge and wisdom is where most people fall. You see it in relationships. People know how to talk, but they do not know how to communicate. They know how to argue, but they do not know how to resolve conflict. They know the psychology, but they lack emotional maturity. You see it in leadership. People know how to take charge, but not how to build trust. They know how to command, but not how to care. They know strategy, but not service. You see it in business. People know the market trends, but they don't know how to treat people. They know how to generate revenue, but they don't know how to generate loyalty. They know how to scale up, but not how to stand firm. The problem is not the information, it's the interpretation, because when knowledge is acquired without wisdom, it leads to misplaced confidence. A person may feel they're ready to lead when they haven't yet learned to follow. They may feel qualified to advise others, even though they haven't disciplined themselves. They may think they are experts simply because they've memorized the facts. But wisdom is not about what you've memorized. It's about what you've mastered. Knowledge is external, wisdom is internal. One can be copied, but the other must be cultivated. That's why two people can read the same book, take the same course, or hear the same message, yet one grows and the other stagnates. One applies, the other only accumulates, because it's not just what goes into you that matters, it's what flows out of you. When wisdom is absent, knowledge becomes a tool of pride, not progress. It puffs up instead of building up. It's possible to win debates and lose people, to score points and miss the purpose, to impress others and still lack insight. There are many people with sharp minds but shallow lives. They have intellect but no impact. Because knowledge without wisdom is like fire in the wrong hands. It burns rather than warms. It scorches rather than enlightens. Even spiritually, this is a danger. There are many who can quote principles, but they do not practice them. They know the rules, but not the heart. They have memorized truth, but they have not been transformed by it. They speak with clarity, but live with contradiction. Knowledge without wisdom produces hypocrisy. Because information without application leads to inconsistency. Wisdom is what tempers knowledge. It tells you not just what is true, but when and how to apply it. A wise person doesn't speak just because they know something. They speak when it's necessary and in a way that brings life. A wise person doesn't just correct, they build. They don't just instruct, they inspire. They don't just inform, they transform. So the goal is not to simply gain knowledge. It is to grow in wisdom. It is better to know less and live well than to know more and live poorly. Because the greatest tragedies in history were not caused by ignorant people. They were caused by knowledgeable people who lacked wisdom. People who used truth to control rather than to free. People who used their understanding to manipulate rather than to heal. People who used their knowledge to gain power, but not to serve with it. Wisdom teaches you that just because you can say something doesn't mean you should. Just because you know something doesn't mean you're ready to use it. Just because you have access doesn't mean you have authority. Wisdom brings patience, balance, humility. It anchors knowledge so that it doesn't drift into destruction. We must raise a generation that doesn't just chase knowledge, but seeks wisdom. We must train minds, yes, but we must also shape hearts, because a head full of facts and a heart void of truth is a formula for disaster. The future does not belong to the most informed, it belongs to the most wise. And wisdom, unlike knowledge, cannot be downloaded. It must be developed, it must be tested, it must be lived. So let us not be content to know more. Let us strive to become more, because knowledge is power, but wisdom is protection. And when the two are joined together, they build not just smart people, but strong ones. Success is one of the most admired and pursued goals in the world. People chase it with passion. They invest time, energy, and resources to attain it. But very few stop to ask, what kind of person must I become to handle success when it comes? Because success in the hands of a person without character is not a blessing. It is a setup for disaster. Success without character does not elevate you, it exposes you. It pulls back the curtain and reveals what was hidden. It doesn't make you something new, it magnifies what you already are. Character is the foundation upon which true success must be built. You can rise fast with talent, with connections, with education, with ambition. But if you rise without building character, you will eventually fall. It may take time, it may not happen in public. But when success outruns integrity, collapse is inevitable. Because the higher you go, the more pressure you carry, and if your foundation is weak, you will crack under the weight of your own elevation. We have been trained to celebrate results, not roots. We reward outcomes, not process. We applaud what we see on the outside, but often ignore what is happening on the inside. But success is not measured by what you accomplish. It is measured by who you become in the process. Without character, success can turn into pride. It can turn into entitlement. It can turn into selfishness. You begin to believe that your talent excuses your behavior, that your results justify your decisions, that your achievements place you above accountability. But success is not supposed to make you arrogant. It is supposed to make you responsible. It is supposed to make you more humble, not more entitled, more generous, not more greedy, more grateful, not more boastful. When character is missing, success becomes poison. It intoxicates the mind. It convinces you that you are the source rather than the steward, that you deserve special treatment instead of deeper discipline. There are people who gained wealth, fame, power, or status, only to lose their families, lose their peace, and in some cases lose their minds. And the tragedy is not that they reached success. The tragedy is that they reached it too fast, or without being properly formed for it. Success became their identity, and when it was threatened they collapsed, because they built their self-worth on something external, and they never developed the internal strength to handle pressure, criticism, or loss. Character is what keeps you grounded when everything around you tells you that you're more than you are. It is the inner compass that tells you you can but you shouldn't, you could but it wouldn't be right. Character holds you back from compromising even when no one would notice. It is who you are when no one is watching. It is not what you post, not what you present, not what you perform. It is what you practice in secret. It is how you treat people who have nothing to offer you. It is how you respond when you are offended, challenged, or disappointed. The real test of success is not how high you climb, but how well you can still walk in humility when you get there. Some of the most successful people by the world's standards are deeply insecure, emotionally immature, and spiritually empty. Because success came, but character was never built. They were promoted publicly, but never trained privately. They learned how to lead others before they learned how to lead themselves. That's why talent is not enough, giftedness is not enough, intelligence is not enough. These things can take you to a platform, but only character can keep you there. And if you don't build character, your success will become your enemy. It will accelerate your downfall instead of your destiny, because the pressure that comes with success will demand more maturity than talent alone can provide. Character is not built overnight. It is developed through tests, through choices, through moments when you could have taken shortcuts, but you chose the long road instead. It is built through seasons of obscurity when no one applauds you, but you remain faithful. When no one sees the effort, but you still give your best. When no one rewards your integrity, but you still refuse to compromise. We must stop raising people to be impressive and start training them to be consistent. We must stop celebrating giftedness over growth, because success without character is a mirage. It promises fulfillment but delivers emptiness. It attracts attention but cannot sustain peace. It gives you a stage but does not prepare you for the storms. What you build in private is what will carry you in public. Your unseen disciplines, your secret sacrifices, your quiet commitments. These are the pillars of lasting success, because one day your success will be tested. Your influence will be challenged, your platform will shake, and when it does, you will not be held up by your achievements. You will be held up by your character. So let success come, let growth come. Let doors open, but before all that, let your foundation be laid. Let your inner life be strengthened, because success is not the goal. Character is. Success is a reward. Character is a requirement. And if you build it right, you won't just succeed. You'll endure. You won't just rise, you'll last. Success is one of the most admired and pursued goals in the world. People chase it with passion. They invest time, energy, and resources to attain it. But very few stop to ask, what kind of person must I become to handle success when it comes? Because success in the hands of a person without character is not a blessing. It is a setup for disaster. Success without character does not elevate you, it exposes you. It pulls back the curtain and reveals what was hidden. It doesn't make you something new, it magnifies what you already are. Character is the foundation upon which true success must be built. You can rise fast with talent, with connections, with education, with ambition. But if you rise without building character, you will eventually fall. It may take time, it may not happen in public, but when success outruns integrity, collapse is inevitable, because the higher you go, the more pressure you carry. And if your foundation is weak, you will crack under the weight of your own elevation. We have been trained to celebrate results, not roots. We reward outcomes, not process. We applaud what we see on the outside, but often ignore what is happening on the inside. But success is not measured by what you accomplish. It is measured by who you become in the process. Without character, success can turn into pride. It can turn into entitlement. It can turn into selfishness. You begin to believe that your talent excuses your behavior, that your results justify your decisions, that your achievements place you above accountability. But success is not supposed to make you arrogant. It is supposed to make you responsible. It is supposed to make you more humble, not more entitled. More generous, not more greedy. More grateful, not more boastful. When character is missing, success becomes poison. It intoxicates the mind. It convinces you that you are the source rather than the steward, that you deserve special treatment instead of deeper discipline. There are people who gained wealth, fame, power, or status, only to lose their families, lose their peace, and in some cases lose their minds. And the tragedy is not that they reached success. The tragedy is that they reached it too fast, or without being properly formed for it. Success became their identity, and when it was threatened, they collapsed. Because they built their self-worth on something external, and they never developed the internal strength to handle pressure, criticism, or loss. Character is what keeps you grounded when everything around you tells you that you're more than you are. It is the inner compass that tells you you can, but you shouldn't, you could, but it wouldn't be right. Character holds you back from compromising even when no one would notice. It is who you are when no one is watching. It is not what you post, not what you present, not what you perform. It is what you practice in secret. It is how you treat people who have nothing to offer you. It is how you respond when you are offended, challenged, or disappointed. The real test of success is not how high you climb, but how well you can still walk in humility when you get there. Some of the most successful people by the world's standards are deeply insecure, emotionally immature, and spiritually empty. Because success came, but character was never built. They were promoted publicly, but never trained privately. They learned how to lead others before they learned how to lead themselves. That's why talent is not enough. Giftedness is not enough. Intelligence is not enough. These things can take you to a platform, but only character can keep you there. And if you don't build character, your success will become your enemy. It will accelerate your downfall instead of your destiny, because the pressure that comes with success will demand more maturity than talent alone can provide. Character is not built overnight. It is developed through tests, through choices, through moments when you could have taken shortcuts, but you chose the long road instead. It is built through seasons of obscurity when no one applauds you, but you remain faithful, when no one sees the effort, but you still give your best, when no one rewards your integrity, but you still refuse to compromise. We must stop raising people to be impressive and start training them to be consistent. We must stop celebrating giftedness over growth. Because success without character is a mirage. It promises fulfillment but delivers emptiness. It attracts attention but cannot sustain peace. It gives you a stage but does not prepare you for the storms. What you build in private is what will carry you in public. Your unseen disciplines, your secret sacrifices, your quiet commitments. These are the pillars of lasting success, because one day your success will be tested. Your influence will be challenged, your platform will shake, and when it does, you will not be held up by your achievements. You will be held up by your character. So let success come, let growth come. Let doors open, but before all that, let your foundation be laid. Let your inner life be strengthened, because success is not the goal. Character is. Success is a reward. Character is a requirement. And if you build it right, you won't just succeed, you'll endure. You won't just rise, you'll last. Vision is a powerful thing. It stirs the soul, lights a fire in the heart, and causes people to dream beyond their current reality. Vision has built cities, launched movements, started revolutions, and redefined generations. But while vision is powerful, it is not enough. Vision without discipline is a delusion. It creates a picture in the mind that never becomes reality. It offers the hope of a destination, but with no willingness to take the steps to get there. There are people with incredible vision, people who talk about what they're going to build, what they're going to write, who they're going to become. They speak with passion, with conviction, with clarity. But year after year passes and nothing changes. Not because the vision was wrong, but because the discipline was missing. A vision without a plan is just a fantasy. A dream without daily effort is just noise. Desire alone cannot create destiny. It takes discipline. Discipline is what bridges the gap between where you are and where you are called to be. Vision may show you the mountain, but discipline takes you step by step to the summit. Vision inspires, discipline produces. Vision makes you shout. Discipline makes you sweat. One gives you direction, the other gives you traction. You can see clearly where you want to go, but if you don't develop the habits that lead you there, you will live your life walking in circles. Many are frustrated not because they lack vision, but because they have refused the cost that comes with it. They want the result without the routine. They want the reward without the sacrifice, but vision demands something from you. It demands consistency. It demands structure. It demands that you say no to distractions, to laziness, to comfort. You cannot build greatness on emotion. You build it on commitment. Discipline is not glamorous. It doesn't trend. It doesn't go viral, but it works. It is the small decisions made every single day that align with your larger calling. It is waking up early when you feel like sleeping in. It is choosing silence when your ego wants to speak. It is staying the course when others are quitting. It is doing the right thing repeatedly even when no one is watching. Vision can be exciting. It can stir a crowd, but without discipline, it produces nothing but disappointment. Because every vision will be tested. It will be stretched. It will be challenged by time, resistance, boredom, and doubt. And when those moments come, and they will, your vision will not be sustained by inspiration. It will be sustained by discipline. It is easy to be passionate in the beginning, easy to be excited when the dream is new, but discipline is what keeps you moving when the feelings fade. It's what makes you show up when you don't see results. Discipline is the anchor that keeps vision from drifting. Without it, vision becomes emotional hype with no follow-through. There are countless people walking around today carrying great visions that are slowly dying inside them. Not because the dream expired, but because they failed to do the work. Talent is not the issue. Ideas are not the issue. It's the lack of follow-through, the inability to endure routine, the refusal to submit to the process. They loved the vision but hated the discipline, and so the vision went unrealized. Vision requires you to become someone different, not in imagination, but in practice. If your vision is to impact lives, discipline will train you to serve before you speak. If your vision is to lead a company, discipline will teach you how to manage your time, your mind, and your emotions. If your vision is to write a book, discipline will tell you to sit down and write even when you're uninspired. Whatever your vision, discipline will be the test of its authenticity. You do not drift into excellence. You do not stumble into significance. You do not casually arrive at greatness. You must build it, brick by brick, day by day. Vision is the blueprint. Discipline is the labor. Without discipline, the blueprint remains a wish. And many are stuck in life not because God didn't give them vision, but because they haven't yet embraced the training that vision requires. Discipline is not just about doing the right things, it's about becoming the right person, the kind of person who can carry the weight of what you're asking for. Because if you're not disciplined, even if you reach your vision, you won't be able to maintain it. You'll get there, but you won't last. And sometimes mercy will block success to protect you from collapse. Vision without discipline can take you somewhere your character can't sustain. So you must decide, do you want the dream or do you want the process that produces it? Because they are not the same, one is easy to imagine, the other is hard to walk out. But only one of them will take you to where you're meant to be. You must choose the disciplined path, not once, but every day. In the end, it's not the most inspired who succeed. It's the most disciplined, the ones who are willing to do in private what others admire in public, the ones who are faithful in the routine when no applause is given, the ones who build steadily until the vision becomes real. Freedom is one of the most powerful words in the human vocabulary. It stirs emotion, provokes movements, inspires revolutions. People long for it, fight for it, and even die for it. But what many don't realize is that freedom by itself is not a blessing unless it is managed. Freedom without responsibility is not liberty. It is chaos. It does not build, it breaks. It does not free, it enslaves. Because when a person demands freedom but refuses responsibility, what they are truly seeking is license. License to live without consequence, to choose without cost, to act without accountability. True freedom is not the absence of boundaries. It is the presence of self-control. It is the ability to choose wisely, not just freely. Responsibility is what gives freedom its structure. Without it, freedom becomes destructive. Like a car without brakes or a ship without a rudder, it may move fast, but it's destined to crash. People say, I want to do what I want when I want. But freedom does not work that way. That's not freedom, that's immaturity. That's rebellion disguised as independence, because every choice carries weight. Every decision bears fruit. And if you're not willing to be responsible for your choices, you are not ready to be free. Freedom is not simply doing what you want. It's doing what is right, even when you don't want to. It is not living without boundaries, but choosing to live within the right ones. Responsibility is not the enemy of freedom. It is the guardian of it. Without responsibility, freedom becomes reckless. It turns pleasure into addiction, rights into selfishness, and choices into consequences you're not prepared to handle. You see it in every arena of life. In relationships, people want the freedom to love, but not the responsibility to commit. They want the joy of connection without the sacrifice of loyalty. They want access without accountability, and in the end hearts are broken, trust is lost, and they blame love itself. When the problem wasn't love, it was the misuse of freedom. In business, people want the freedom to lead, but not the responsibility to serve. They want the authority without the burden of decisions, the title without the cost. And when failure comes, they point fingers rather than take ownership. In society, the call for rights is louder than the call for duty. People demand justice, fairness, opportunity, but forget that every right comes with a responsibility. If you want the right to speak, you must also guard the responsibility to speak with truth and respect. If you want the right to prosper, you must accept the responsibility to work, to steward, to give back. Freedom that ignores responsibility does not elevate a nation. It slowly tears it apart. Even in personal life, people want freedom over their time, their money, their future. But how often do they sabotage themselves by mismanaging those very things? They're free to spend, so they go into debt. Free to eat, so they destroy their health. Free to choose, so they settle for shortcuts. Not because they lack freedom, but because they refused responsibility. They wanted choices, not consequences, but life doesn't work that way. Every act of freedom carries a price, and if you don't pay it with discipline, you'll pay it with regret. Freedom will test you. It will test whether you are driven by purpose or by impulse, whether you can govern yourself or whether you need to be governed, whether you can handle options without losing direction. Because when a person lacks internal control, they must be controlled externally. That's why laws exist. That's why systems are put in place, to protect people from the consequences of unmanaged freedom. But the highest level of maturity is not needing external restraint, because you've already embraced internal responsibility. The greatest threat to freedom is not oppression. It is irresponsibility, because oppression can be challenged. Injustice can be resisted, but irresponsibility is self-inflicted. It gives away power slowly, carelessly, until one day you wake up no longer in control of your own life. You gave away your freedom through choices you didn't take seriously, opportunities you abused, or truths you ignored. You surrendered to your impulses, and now you are enslaved to your own lack of discipline. Freedom is a test of character. Not everyone is ready for it, and this is not just true for individuals. It's true for families, communities, even nations. History is full of societies that gained their freedom only to collapse from within because they lacked the maturity to sustain it. They fought for independence, but never built responsibility. They wanted freedom from something, but never defined what they were free for. And without responsibility to guide it, Freedom becomes hollow shouting rights while ignoring the righteousness required to protect them. So the real question is not, are you free? The question is, can you handle freedom? Can you govern your choices when no one else is watching? Can you take ownership of your actions when it would be easier to blame others? Can you carry the weight of liberty without using it as a weapon? Freedom without responsibility is not a gift. It's a ticking clock. It looks good in the beginning, but in time it will turn on you. It will demand a payment, and if you've spent your freedom carelessly, the price will be high. It is not enough to be free. You must also be faithful. Not just free to choose, but faithful to choose well. Not just free to act, but faithful to act with wisdom. That's where freedom finds its true power. Not in noise, not in rebellion, but in self-control, in ownership, in maturity. That's where a person becomes truly free, when they are no longer mastered by anything outside of them, because they've learned to master themselves. Power is one of the most sought-after forces on earth. People chase it, compete for it, manipulate systems to obtain it. Power promises influence, it offers control, it makes people listen, but power without purpose is not a gift. It is a weapon. It becomes dangerous in the hands of those who don't know why they have it. When power is separated from purpose, it begins to serve ego instead of vision, pride instead of progress, ambition instead of assignment. It magnifies flaws, multiplies mistakes, and intensifies corruption. Power is not evil. It is not inherently wrong. In the right hands, it brings order, protection, healing, justice. In the wrong hands, it brings fear, oppression, destruction, and silence. The issue is not power itself. The issue is the purpose behind it. Why do you want power? What will you do with it once you get it? These are questions that too few ask, because without a clearly defined purpose, power becomes self-serving. It starts to orbit around personal agendas, not the greater good. Purpose is what directs power. It gives it meaning, boundaries, and direction. It answers the question, why does this influence exist? Purpose puts the brakes on ego. It checks the intentions behind decisions. It keeps power from becoming possessive. Without purpose, power begins to distort reality. The powerful start to believe they are untouchable, that they are the source of the authority instead of its steward. And once you think power belongs to you, you begin to misuse it to protect yourself rather than empower others. When power is not grounded in purpose, it becomes dangerous because it always seeks more of itself. It becomes addicted to attention, to applause, to control. It starts small, decisions that are just slightly self-centered, just a little self-promoting. But over time, without a moral compass, that power begins to serve insecurity. And that is when it becomes toxic. Insecure power is dangerous power because it does not build, it dominates, it silences, it deflects. It punishes anyone who questions it. We have seen leaders rise in business, in politics, in religion, with great influence but no clear purpose beyond self-preservation. And the results are always the same: broken systems, betrayed people, and wasted potential. Because power without purpose has no vision to serve. It only knows how to survive, how to protect its own image. It fears transparency because purpose brings accountability. But when purpose is absent, power hides in shadows. It grows through fear, and eventually it collapses under the weight of its own deception. True power is not loud. It does not have to shout to be felt. It doesn't need to flaunt, because when power is rooted in purpose, it has clarity. It knows what it's here for. It doesn't need to prove anything. It simply acts consistently, wisely, and courageously. Power that is driven by purpose is willing to be questioned, willing to be refined, because it understands that influence is a trust, not a trophy. The most dangerous people in the world are not the weak. They are the powerful who have lost their why. When a person with great authority no longer understands the assignment connected to their position, they begin to play God. They rewrite rules, they redefine truth, they shape narratives to serve their agenda, they become intoxicated by their own voice, And worse, they often surround themselves with people who only echo back praise, never truth. That's how power becomes blind. Purpose acts like a compass for power. It reminds you that influence is for service, that leadership is for lifting others, not elevating yourself. Purpose tells power, this is not about you. It brings humility into the equation. And without humility, power becomes delusional. It sees opposition as betrayal, questions as threats, and correction as disrespect. That's how entire organizations, even nations, fall, when power is held by those who are no longer submitted to anything greater than themselves. Every person who desires influence must first answer one question: what is the purpose of this power? Because power without direction is not strength. It is instability. It is energy with no aim. A river without banks floods. A fire without a boundary consumes. Power without purpose is just as destructive. It may appear successful for a time. It may accumulate wealth, dominate industries, or command large crowds. But eventually, when there is no purpose, power implodes. Because it can't keep pretending forever. Purpose brings alignment. It makes sure your power serves something eternal, something higher than personal ambition. It protects you from using others for gain. It reminds you that what you've been given is not yours to exploit, but yours to manage. That's why the most powerful people are often the most surrendered. They know that true power flows through them, not from them. They know they are not the source. They are the channel. So if you are seeking power, stop first and seek purpose. Not temporary goals, but real meaning. Not applause, but assignment. Because once you know your purpose, your power will have restraint. It will know when to speak and when to be silent, when to confront and when to listen, when to build and when to let go. Purpose doesn't weaken power, it refines it. It makes it trustworthy, and in a world full of loud, empty power, what we need most is quiet, purposeful strength. We live in a world where having is celebrated more than becoming, where possessing is pursued more than purpose, and where vision, freedom, and power are often stripped of their responsibility, their discipline, their direction. But make no mistake, having this is very dangerous when you are not prepared to carry the weight that comes with it. Vision without discipline will lead you in circles. Freedom without responsibility will trap you in consequences. Power without purpose will become your undoing. You were not created just to have potential, but to fulfill it. Not just to gain influence, but to steward it. Not just to dream, but to build. The gifts in your life were never meant to serve your ego. They were given to fulfill your assignment. And if you refuse the cost of that assignment, what you have will eventually consume who you are. So ask yourself, not what do I want to have, but who do I need to become to carry it? Will you live as a person who builds with integrity, walks in responsibility, and leads with vision? Or will you settle for the illusion of greatness without the internal strength to sustain it? Because in the end, it is not what you have that defines your legacy. It's what you did with it, who you served with it, and whether you ever aligned it with the purpose for which you were born. The danger is not in having, the danger is in having without becoming. Choose purpose, choose responsibility, choose discipline, and you will not just make a mark, you will build something that lasts.